All righty. Good evening to all of you on this wonderful, good day that the good Lord has provided. How was your day? We're running 2 minutes late, and we can thank my technician over here, Linda Ruski. She actually forgot we were doing this tonight. Yeah, I see you did. All right. So we're going to get into a lot of stuff. I'm glad there's a few of you on Facebook. Oh, Twitter looks like it's pinging off the floor and into the ceiling there. We got a lot of folks there too. YouTube, not so much. Those guys, they like to throttle us down. We put a lot of posts out there today about the things that were happening, and even Facebook was, doing something to the effect of not exactly posting everything that we were doing out there. Anyway, all that said, there's a lot of stuff going on. If you joined us on Sunday, we were on here live with Pastor Willie from the Life Center Church. Great 1 hour, and we're going to do that again on Sunday. So if you're interested in hearing us talk about all things good, the good Lord, Sunday's the place to be here at 7:00. We go a little bit earlier because we all got to get some sleep and go to work and do the things we do to make some money and just pay the bills and all that other good stuff. So all that said, join us on Sunday, and of course we're here every Tuesday by the grace of God, and we thank Him for everything. At 8:00, we're gonna roll approximately about an hour. We could go longer. And if we do, my wife will start to do the comments about get off, because it's, I go long. The trusty technician here, since we're running late, maybe might tell me to get off on time too. All that said, I hope everybody's having a good day. It is Tuesday, right? It is Tuesday. She's turning red over here. But look, let me tell you what's going on today. All kinds of stuff all over the world. Did you hear what Joe Biden he's going to the Middle East, and he wants to go meet in Israel. And of course, he's invited the Jordanian president. By the way, that guy is, if you didn't know, I think he's Harvard educated, married to, just some high society lady or whatever. We pay all the bills in Jordan, by the way. And they have no respect for the United States, or let me rephrase that. They have no respect for the Joe Biden regime because they pretty much told him to pound sand. He said, "Hey, I'm coming to go visit," and the Jordanian president said, "No puedo. I've got to go feed the camels." That's and something about falcons or something. I'm not sure, but the Jordanian president is also the guy that's not going to allow any of the Palestinians to go into his country. I want you to think about that. While the border right down here, all 800 plus miles of CD-23, actually all across to California, is completely wide open. And if you read some of these articles that are out there from the lefty leaning magazines like Axios saying, quote unquote, the border isn't open. Of course, all the pundits went crazy showing pictures of the fence that is actually literally wide open. All that said, we've got a couple of pictures I want to show you, but today they voted for the Speaker of the House. And let me just remind you a little bit here. Let's see if this is it right here. Let me see if I got the right one here. So remember, this happened, and I know I'm talking through the screen here, but this happened last couple of days ago, and we got rid of this cat here. Kevin McCarthy, if you still like him, there's something wrong with you, and you're probably a Democrat. And the reason I say that is because if you stayed with McCarthy, by the way, that's usually what, really hardcore Republicans who really haven't researched sometimes, or even hardcore Republicans who are really out there to gaslight the rest of the base, would tell you, hey, he's an SOB, but we got to keep our own SOB. Well, Matt Gaetz, who I absolutely appreciate, last week went in there and executed on the one rule that he was looking for. If you remember, all the way back in January, there was 20 of them that said, we're not budging until you do things the way we want. And they asked for a few things. One of them was that They weren't going to be doing these omnibus bills, where they pack everything in, everybody gets the pork, and we get screwed with the bill. Instead of spending what we bring in, which is roughly about 5 trillion a year, we're now spending $7 trillion. So that extra 2 trillion, guess what? Tack it on to the $30 trillion we already owe on the credit card. We are now at $33 trillion, and I forget what year, but really rapidly approaching is we're going to be at a point where the interest for all of you who pay credit cards, or if you don't have credit cards and you pay on a card because you bought it, you're always looking for that 1.9 2.9% APR. Well, the interest on $33 trillion, eventually it's going to grow to 50 trillion. We're going to be paying $1 trillion a year. That's approaching, folks. This is what we're doing to our kids. But by the way, both Republicans and Democrats. So we're laying blame across the board. Matt Gaetz says enough is enough, and because McCarthy was on his way to approving another omnibus bill of $7 trillion. And what was in that package? More money for Ukraine. And I want you to grab a hold of that. More money for Ukraine. We're up in somewhere in the 300 billion dollars to Ukraine. You know what the wall would have cost 3 or 4 years ago? $25 billion. We can't seem to get our representatives to go fight for $25 billion to finish this damn wall and help our Border Patrol customs agents stop this invasion. Because let me tell you something, if the Jordanian president doesn't want Palestinians into his country, why would we take them into America? And before you look at me and say, oh, you're not a very human person or whatever, you can kiss my rump. I don't really care. We're letting too many people in. In fact, let me show you these statistics. This is just in the last 14 days. I'm not a fan of Fox News, but they do put out some data sometimes that we use. And so I want to show you this here real quick. Look at this. The last 14 days, we've got 30, 60. I mean, this is all the Middle East. And look at how many Chinese came into the country. If this doesn't keep you up at night, and this for the preponderance of this is really military age men. No women and children mostly. And so there you go. Here we have a wide open borders, and that's just in the last 14 days, folks. In the last 14 days. So anyway, a lot of stuff is going on. And so let me go back to 3 or 4 years ago. This dude, along with a bunch of other good dudes and dudettes, because there's a lot of good folks out there, for 4+ years have been screaming that we were going to get to a point where the border was so porous that we would now be risking not just cartel selling drugs and potential of the MS-13, the Sinaloas, and La Nueva Generación cartel out of wherever, Juarez, Pickett, anywhere. Not only that those folks were coming over to take over the routes, is what I said, but also that we would get to a point where we were now in a Trojan horse situation, because you've got millions of people coming. And all you need is a couple of hundred folks to literally decide on another 9/11 situation. And guess what? We have ourselves another massacre like we've never seen it before. In fact, the bad news is a lot of folks are predicting that's happening or is going to happen in the next 14 months. I don't know what the data says. I've not seen it. But I can tell you, just from living on the border, being from Del Rio, and working hard for the last 4 years to try to stop this mess, running against Will Hurd, running in a runoff against the Bendido Tony Gonzalez. And we're going to have a conversation. I don't really want to talk about that guy, but somehow he just keeps coming back. He's just like a bad virus. He just keeps coming back. I can't get rid of anyway. So we're going to have a conversation about that. But we've been saying that for 4+ years, which is why we're doing this podcast, because We're trying to send to you as much information as we can. See, you can go to Fox News and you'll see Tony Gonzalez out there. Heck, you were seeing McCarthy was on there for like a month or two. Oh, life is great. Oh, we're gonna take it to the Democrats. Oh, we're gonna impeach Joe Biden. Oh, we're gonna subpoena the whole world. Nothing happened. So Matt Gaetz coming back around again pulls the trigger and boom, out is McCarthy. So now we have an opportunity. Look, let me just say this for the record. I'm a fan of Jordan in the sense that I think he's a conservative, but and you're not going to get everything. We're not going to get everything we want. You might as well just. I'm telling you straight out. You're not going to get it, but he is definitely 1,000 times better than McCarthy. The trajectory that we were going towards is the same one that got us into $33 trillion in debt. We were going to add another $2 trillion to make it 35, and on and on and on to the point where we're going to have $1 trillion interest payments. I want you to wrap your want you to wrap that's almost that's 20% of the entire budget, and that's on a good year. We're not going to be able to sustain this. This is how Rome, the USSR, and a few other nations, old hegemons throughout history, have disappeared off the face of the earth because debt overwhelmed them and they overstretched themselves, which is what Biden is doing in the Middle East. You see, I think he's going down there because he's trying to stop the ground war that's about to take over or happen between Israel and of course, and Hamas. And Israel is just pounding the heck out of the Palestinians out there. I mean, and people are, what you're going to hear is, oh, not all Palestinians are part of Hamas. Well, they unanimously voted for that group. And that group went over to Israel and literally massacred a lot of innocent women and children. And there's talks about beheading babies. I mean, it's just gross. It's absolutely gross. And whether there's you know something happened in the security of Israel, everybody's looking at that. I don't know what that is. What I can tell you is we are now at this point where America is indebted and it overstretching themselves. Because I want you to think about this: we're in Ukraine now, and whether people admit it or not, but there's a lot of involvement there with money, and I imagine with troops. I can't prove that, but I know that there's been a lot of support to Ukraine against Russia, and then now we are diving into the Middle East again. And if you listen to Lindsey Graham, my lord, you want the definition of a neocon? His name used to be Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, but now it's Lindsey Graham out of North Carolina, I think is where he's at. I'm not sure. I think we asked this last time. But Lindsey Graham is talking about bombing the Iranians. And we were $33 trillion in debt. Here's the point to everything I'm trying to make here. This is unsustainable. Absolutely unsustainable. And then you've got a guy, the president, who's running over to the Middle East, who I'm not sure he knows where he's at. I'm sorry, but I don't think he's well. And something needs to happen with that, because we are literally running toward World War III. This is what it looks like. Last part: in debt, overreached, overstretched. Ukraine, Russia has won. Now in the Middle East, back again. But you wait. I have predicted this, that if I'm China, I literally try to take Taiwan before the Biden administration is gone, because he's too weak of we're in too weak of a position to do anything about Taiwan, because now we're going to be on three fronts. And this is not good, because most armies or most of our Army Air Force is really geared to fight on two fronts. So when you extend yourself, and oh, by the way, we're everywhere. We're in Latin America, we're in Australia, we're in Europe still, we're all over the place. You have to reshift all the forces, and you make America very susceptible, very susceptible. We're not in a very good place here, folks. And then, which is kind of where I want to get to here with our conversation, is you have all these things playing, and then you have a wide open border. Let me show you a couple more of these here real quick. Let me see if I can bring this one up real quick here. So there's one here. This is the Jordanian king. Okay. This guy right here, if you didn't know, he's a Harvard graduate. He came to America. His daddy sent him here. He's well educated. That's my point. So he's not a moron. He knows what he's doing. He takes a lot of money from us, the United States. But he drew a red line. He's not going to take any Gaza refugees. You have to ask yourself, why not? And the answer is Egypt doesn't want them. No, no, none of the surrounding countries want any of the refugees that are coming out of Gaza because they have a lot to do with being Palestinian, and part of Hamas. People they just don't want. They don't want those problems. These folks want to go to war. Culturally, they hate the Jews and they hate America. But here's the concern I have, and the one we're going to talk about tonight is I'm hearing rumblings that America is going to accept. I'm looking at my trusty technician over here. America is going to accept refugees from Gaza. Now that's all out there on the internet. I don't know that it is or isn't going to happen. We're here to talk about what we're hearing. That is unsubstantiated. I don't have any proof other than just people are saying that that's what's going to happen next. And you have to ask yourself, where in America are they going to come through? The easiest way for refugees from Gaza to come through would be right down here in Eagle Pass. You see, because this brings us back 100% to 4 years ago, what we've been saying. And today, our local representative went ahead and refused to vote for Jim Jordan. There's 20 of them. 20 or like that. Anyway, there's 20 there's 20 Republicans. 3 of them are from Texas. One of them is Tony Gonzalez. But 4 years ago, and I'm going to have a conversation about this pretty open today, because 4 years ago, after we lost our election to Tony Gonzalez by 7 votes, I kept my mouth shut, and we took it in the chin. We did everything we could to do a recount, but I was left not perplexed but mostly I was left with didn't anybody see what happened in the middle of the night, or was it just me? And a lot of people I ever talked to said, yeah, they found 1,400 votes in the middle of the night. I didn't predict what's going to happen now. I just knew that Mr. Gonzalez was really a Democrat, bought off puppet for the establishment. And immediately after he gets elected, let me show this picture. He runs back down to Eagle Pass and he hangs out with this lady here. I think her name is Victoria Wheeler. And we put this up there 4 years ago this is 10 days after he's been elected the Congressional District 23 representative. And you know this because he still doesn't have the fancy suit. You see, he's still wearing whatever that is. And he's at the Border Mission Hope. It was this little casita thing in the back that you see. And he pledged their loyalty to help get the resources. I said, okay, now I know what's happening here. This guy's here to open the border wide open. And sure enough, if you go to Frank Lopez Border Patriot and you go down maybe a week or so, you'll see a video where Frank is, by the way, that's a video. There's a whole 3 minutes of he's just kissing their butt about how he's going to help them. And by the way, Victoria Wheeler is married to Victor Wheeler, or it's Valeria Wheeler, I think is what it is married to Victor Wheeler. And Victor Wheeler is the Eagle Pass Leader News editor-in-chief. So it's a rag trash newspaper, but what they do is Tony Gonzalez puts, these, Scarface, remember that? It was terrible. He puts these made up innuendo. Oh, Raul did this, or Frank or somebody did something, and they run with it. And then the big news media picks it up, like San Antonio Express News, who, by the way, it's another liberal rag news media here in San Antonio. And why am I saying this? Because if you think about what's happening in Gaza, now let me connect the dots here. If you think of what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, we've had Ukrainians come through this border, folks. Okay. And I have no doubts that refugee Russians have come through this border because nobody's tracking anybody. They're 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 picked up at the border when they cross the river. They're picked up by CBP. They run them over. I think they might do fingerprints. The bottom line, they go to an NGO just like this one here. See the one run by this Miss Wheeler here, right? And from there, CBP picks them up and literally takes them to get processed, and they end up at the NGO, and boom, they're in San Antonio, Houston, wherever, to fly out to California, uh, more than likely New York, some of those other different big city places, to include, I think, maybe even Florida. But those Florida's fared a lot better. What's the point here? That this has been planned for years now, for years. And you have the Jordanian king saying, hell no, we're not taking any refugees from Gaza. And yet America is wide open. We had Cabello was his name. Alden, tell me what his last name. I forgot, because we want to make sure we don't forget. Alden was here. He's the one guy living in Eagle Pass. Actually, he lives across the border, and he's been filming all these people coming over. So when I show you these numbers right here, does this not scare you? It should. And guess what? The representative of this district is in on it. This isn't him. This isn't him over at the VA, folks. This is him at the NGO. It is now 50,000 square feet big. That's how big this place is. Okay. I'm going to show you one more thing about Tony that tells you why he voted. Because here's the thing. Let me get to the punchline. Tony Gonzalez voted against Jim Jordan today, and we're going to leave this up for a little while when we get toward the end, because I want you to call. I want you to call his office and push him. Tomorrow, we want to force this guy to do the right thing and vote for Jim Jordan. All right. Why do you think he voted like that? Because 4 years ago, we showed you this picture. You see, Mr. Gonzalez comes from a LULAC background. His mother is a LULAC recruiter. That's not his mother, by the way. We're not going to do that here. Maybe later on, if we do something different, we'll show it. But here he is hanging out with De La Garza Walker, who is LULAC council president for one of the San Antonio council places here in San Antonio. And Angie Garcia, if you didn't know, is historical in LULAC. She and a few other weirdos ran LULAC from what used to be a bona fide, we're going to help Latinos, because they're an old organization, and they totally took it Marxist communist. You see, their beliefs, that they hang out with BLM, and our representative is right in there with him. But here's the other part. There's more to this story, okay? And part of it is, let me see if I can find the right one here. Barbara Comstock is, she's big on Twitter here, but let me just read this. It gets even worse for Jordan, and they're talking about Jim Jordan here. Sources tell us that the Republicans, members of the Armed Services and Appropriations Committees, are forming an alliance of nearly 20 to block Jordan. All right. So what's the point here? Appropriations Committee is really who's blocking this. These are the people that are not going to let Jim Jordan be the Speaker of the House. Guess who's part of the Appropriations Committee? Tony Gonzalez. And he's a minion. By the way, he's like a subcommittee. He's too junior to be one of the old guard kind of guys. But he's a puppet. You see, if you're a part of the Appropriations Committee, I get it. Your job is to bring money back to the district. But in this case, he's putting America in danger. 20 Republicans, and mostly out of the Appropriations Committee, is who's blocking Jim Jordan. Now, I'll tell you straight out. 8 Republicans joined Democrats to oust McCarthy. And I want to dissect that for a second. People are going to look at that and go, well, they kind of went with the Democrats. Well, actually, it was a tactical play on their part. They didn't really go to the Democrats. They were just hoping Democrats hated McCarthy enough that they were going to vote like Democrats and vote against McCarthy. And it worked. What that proves is that if you have 1, 2, 3, 5 representatives, and the numbers are right, because there's only 222 Republicans, you need 216 to get to the majority. And so you only need like 6 or 7 of these folks. We learned this, by the way, in government. If you were paying attention, there are instances in time in politics. We're in one of them where there's not enough Republicans that all of them really they have to stay together to get things done. So if you got 8 or 9, in this case, back in January, there's 20 of them, and they affected the rules that allowed for Matt Gaetz to go in there and get rid of McCarthy. But I got to tell you, I'd hate to be McCarthy, because historically he's the only one who's ever been booted from the speakership. I mean, try to leave that for your family legacy. The dude should have just really done what he should have done what he was said he was going to do, but he didn't, and Matt Gaetz took him out. Okay, back to the border, back to refugees, back to this district here. Okay, what we're going to do, and we're showing some stuff. um, what I want to do is tie it all together. None of what's happening out here today has been happenstance. There's a reason Tony Gonzalez, in the middle of the night, they found 1,400 votes. Anybody was here at my house, and let me make sure I make this clear with everybody. This isn't about me. What I'm saying to you is, this happened to Donald Trump, and it happened to a lot of other conservatives across America. People wonder, how did we lose this? How did we lose this election? Tony Gonzalez never went out to West Texas except maybe once or twice. Okay. We rolled out there at least 20 or 30 because we wanted to make sure West Texas came in our way. Bexar County, we were all over the place. All things being equal, we led the whole night, except for between the hours of 10:45 and 1:45. Mysteriously, 1,400 votes appeared, and you're looking at a guy that lost by 7 votes. No sour grapes here, folks. What I'm saying to you is, Tony Gonzalez is paying homage to the NGO here because he was puppeted in by a bigger leftist establishment. Do you understand? And so none of this is happenstance. So I'm going to say it again. And I'm going to look at all our friends in the Farm Bureau, at the Republican Women's Group, the Texas Right to Life, and all these anti-abortion and pro-gun, the NRA, all of you, everybody who endorses. Are you really going to endorse this guy this time around? Because he's been censured by the Republican Party, you see, period, end of story. And why? Because he does things like this. He doesn't want to get on board. He's all about getting rich. And I'm going to tell you right now, this guy went to Ukraine. Tony Gonzalez went to Ukraine. You have to ask yourself, why would you be in Ukraine and not in Eagle Pass and Del Rio, screaming at the top of your lungs, telling Biden to go to hell because the border is wide open? Folks, we got babies, we got ladies, young men, our children, aunts, uncles, grandpa, grandma, elderly, doesn't matter. We who live on the border have been in danger for the last 6 or 7 years. More specifically, in the last 3 years since this administration has taken over and the border has been completely wide open. This is absolutely a nightmare. You can hate Trump all you want to, but he at least secured the border, and you can talk to any border patrol agent. You've seen Frank Lopez, Manny Rodriguez, a whole bunch of other good people that are now retired saying overnight things changed. And guess what? They rolled in this guy, right? Mr. Lulak here. You now know what everybody knows. This guy was born and bred by Lulak, brought to you here by the likes of the leftists to make sure that nobody was going to fight on the border. You see? And so now what? I mean, what's the plan now? What are we going to do now? And this is me calling out to all Christians. You can't sit back anymore. And you've got to start talking to your pastors. You got to start talking to your congregations, and you have to start getting people registered to vote, and start to vote the Bible. That's it. Understand? Because even in the Bible, it says God set boundaries for nations, and we no longer have a boundary in America. If you come in through the southern border, we have no idea where you're going. And the tragedy of it all, and I'm reminded my good friend Frank Lopez, is the babies. Where are the kids going? Where? Part of why I got involved 4 years ago is because we had the other Democrat pretending to be a Republican, Will Hurd, who didn't believe we had a crisis on the border. And now you've got Tony Gonzalez voting against Jim Jordan when we need to get on board and get done with it. We're going to put the number up because I want everybody who's been listening tonight all the way to Twitter. You've got to call Tony Gonzalez and tell him to get on board, because what happens next after that? What are they going to do? There is talk that these 20 are going to go to the Democrats and they're going to select somebody different. Kind of what happened with the way they got rid of McCarthy, except the inverse is 20 Republicans allegedly are talking to Democrats about voting a new speaker in that'll be more moderate, in the middle, that'll be bipartisan. And boy, I tell you what, I think you can kiss your political career goodbye. Tony Gonzalez certainly has at least highlighted himself, but this isn't the first time. This is a guy who voted against the Second Amendment. This is a guy who would not vote to impeach DHS director or secretary of DHS Mayorkas, even though he's done everything wrong. For every Tony Gonzalez, which is District 23, there's plenty of them across America. What I'm saying to you, if you're listening all the way up to New York, because we have fans up there and in Michigan, find your Tony Gonzalez and go primary him. You've got to start doing something. And if you attend the church, start talking to your Christian friends and brethren and tell them you can no longer just go listen, get inspired on Sunday. There is a purpose for us at this time, at this part of the world right now. Because for me, it's talking into this mic, into the camera, dealing with my late technician over here. But seriously telling you that you got to do whatever you need to do to move things in a better direction. Because right now, America is literally going in the wrong direction, because we not only have a Democrat in charge who really, and I feel bad for the dude, and I mean that for respect for the presidency, is there's something wrong. He's just sick. Something's wrong. We're going to end up in World War III because somebody forgot to say there's something wrong with this guy. Okay. But here's the thing. 20 Republicans have shown themselves that they're part of the problem too. Let me transition over to Austin. We have 60 Republicans that surprised a whole bunch of Texans who woke up one day and realized, wait, why are you impeaching Ken Paxton? The guy that's taking on Joe Biden? 60 of you are going to do that? We're now starting to see what's underneath these rocks. And I have this conversation with a lot of good friends. And I remember when I first jumped into politics, because look, nobody teaches you how to be a candidate or be a politician. Let me regress that on that a little bit. There were some wonderful people that try to mentor us and tell us how to run good campaigns. Marion, if you're listening, that you know who you are. There's just a lot of good people that point us in the right direction, but they don't tell you how to speak unless you want to be like a Bushy or McConnell or somebody, where you just read your 1 or 2 or 3 minute speeches. I could never do that because I'm a passionate guy, and I get very angry when people do stupid things. Because, and I have to be careful because I had a few folks from Del Rio call me last time. Del Rio has the smartest people in the world. You know how I know that? Because I've sat in many rooms and I could not believe the things I've heard other people say. And I was dumbfounded to think that I'm the guy with the solution. So I get really passionate about fighting the fight and making people realize you cannot. There's no way. I mean, I'm asking the question. I'm not slamming all these groups because I could name a whole bunch of other groups. But Texas Right to Life, are you going to endorse this guy? National Rifle Association, are you going to endorse this guy? That's what I'm asking. What about the Republican women, especially in Bexar County, Del Rio? Are you all? Because there's, by the way, all these are wonderful groups that I know these ladies, I know these organizations. But my question now is, are you going to put America first, or are you going to vote on this person here who has openly lied to you about who he is? And the proof, folks, the proof is in the pudding, because he won't get on board with Jim Jordan. And do you know why? Because he's part of the Appropriations Committee, and it's probably going to hurt his pocket. But more importantly, he's part of this leftist organization, leftist push to get America down this rhino establishment road where they control everything. That's it. Because guess what? The only time this guy goes down to the border is to sort of show and tell. Here's what I'm going to do. If you can tell me where Tony Gonzalez is going to be next, talking in a town hall setting so we can openly ask him questions, you tell me and I will be there. Because guess what? You're not going to be able to. For 4 years, this guy has been a total ghost. He goes down there with Fox News and he blah, 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 and talks a whole bunch of stuff. And then he spikes you in the back by not voting for this guy, who is the right guy for America right now. You see? So here we are. You know, I did it again. Isn't that Britney Spears, right? Whoops, oops, oops, I did it again. Let me slow down here. The reason I say that, because I purposely have always avoided wanting to have a strict conversation about Tony Gonzalez. But we're in Congressional District 23. We're from the South. I'm born and raised in Del Rio, Texas, where great people live, but we have no jobs. And do you know why? Because Republicans like Tony Gonzalez would rather go to Ukraine and ensure that they have pensions, but not the citizens of Uvalde, Eagle Pass, anywhere. And you wonder, I get a little pissed off at the world. Pastor, sorry. Because I know some good people are listening. But we have no jobs. When you walk out of San Antonio and toward the west, unless you're a cowboy where you're ranching and doing all that wonderful. But by the way, I used to do that. It's good life. It's a good life. Linda Ruski saying it is a good life. But the reason a place like Del Rio and Eagle Pass and Uvalde haven't grown in population is because their children don't come back to live there. Do you know why? 2 reasons. There's no real pensionable jobs. And 2, we have no security. None. The world is on fire from Highway 90 all the way down to Brownsville, all the way to El Paso, and nobody gives 2 craps about us. But I do. That's why we're here, because other than boiling in the house, we're going to talk to you, and we need you to push this to share the world. But we can't help but to have a conversation about the one guy who's lied to all of you. And I'm going to ask it again. Dear good ladies of the Republican Women's of San Antonio, are you going to vote for this guy? Are you still going to push for this guy? Because we had a few people that work for us or work with us. We had volunteers in our campaign. All of a sudden, I see them over there. You all have integrity. You got to dump this guy like it's a big hot turd and get rid of it. Because guess what? He's no bueno. He's sold us out. And today he votes against Jim Jordan. He votes for Scalise. People say, oh, it's he wants to be like Joe Manchin. Remember, Joe Manchin is that Democrat that he's the 51st vote. So if the Democrats don't give him what he wants, he sort of leans, hey, I'm going to go this way. And then they bring him back with money or whatever. Tony Gonzalez doesn't know how to do that. He has no clue. I tell you right now, the reason he doesn't meet with his town hall constituents in a town hall setting, is because he doesn't have the aptitude to answer the questions. How do you answer for lie after lie after lie? We have video that says, oh, I'm pro Second Amendment. Boom, crush that. I'm pro traditional marriage. Boom, crush that. Completely. You can paint the rainbow on this guy. Okay. I'm pro family. No, you're not. Because if you were, you would be down in Del Rio fighting for the citizens of Del Rio, Uvalde, Eagle Pass, all the way to Fort Stockton. God bless Fort Stockton and all those wonderful places out there like Hudspeth and Culberson. They forget about you. You know why? Because he doesn't care. These are Republicans that don't care. And I'm not telling you go vote Democrat. That just as bad. But he might as well be a Democrat, I guess is what I'm saying. We're in trouble because we refuse to listen to the purveyors of truth. There's one good man out there. His Frank Lopez is out there on the border. Alden Cabello. If you look at, and we've had him, we had Anthony Aguero. These are people who are not at home with their children. They're on the border bringing you the news. We're out here trying to expose all that too. Folks, you got to wake up. You got to wake up. And to my Christian friends, you cannot sit idle anymore, especially the men. You cannot be a Christian man in today's society and think this is okay. Satan is at the door. He's knocking on the door and he's chewing up America because we want to be politically correct. I don't think so. To hell with BLM, to hell with LULAC, to hell with anybody who's anti-America, because it means you're anti-freedom, and that means you are not going to allow us to preach to the one God, the true living God here in America. And I'm not going to sit by and just stand by and do idle. So today I want to surprise you with a couple of things, and then we're going to sort of wrap it up here in a little bit. But so here's what I'm going to do, because I've had enough, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell my trusty web designer media team that we're going to put up a website, and we're going to go ahead and consider. I want you to mark this. Somebody hit Patrick's VTech. He's the guy from the Texas Tribune. Guy knows everything. He knows everything, so he can splatter it up at the Texas Tribune. We're now considering running in Congressional District 23. Boom. Did I just hear a sonic boom somewhere? And I even cut my hair. I just wanted to show you that. So somebody let Tony know that we're contemplating running in this race. Now we're not committed. We have to do that thing that where we have to look. We have to talk to a lot of people. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Say that again. It's called an exploratory committee, but I'm not even going to call it that. I'm done with the BS campaign rhetoric. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it up to you. Okay. What I'm going to do is we're going to put up a website in the next 10 days. And the question is really going to be simple. Do you want a rematch between Raul and Tony Gonzalez? Because if you say yes, and if there's enough people, look, folks, let me say this. I'm itching for a fight, but quite frankly, if we can't convince enough of you to get in there and support us, then you're not itching for a fight either. And the best we can do is keep informing and talking about the problems and pray that you vote correctly in March. You see, now for the record, I'm not committed. What I'm saying to you is I'm going to let you decide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a website, and we're going to put out a survey, and we're going to ask you, are you in or are you out? Fair enough? We're not going to ask you, but for two things. You're going to answer yes or no, but to do it, you need to put your email. And this isn't a catch. It's just what I know is Mr. Gonzalez and his minions are listening at this, and they'll go in there and just vote no, because we've got bots out there. So I have to ask you for an email. Not going to mail you anything. Not going to ask you to buy anything. Bottom line is, if you want us in this race, and let me tell you something. 4 years and countless amounts of time and money on my part. I'm the one guy who just ought to tell you, you know what? I'm not sure I want to do this anymore, but we cannot sit idle. I'm not going to tell you to do something that I myself am not willing to do. We're out here podcasting. We're at the border. We're at these meetings. We're everywhere asking you to get involved. So I'm going to at least ask you what you want to do. You understand? So Linda Ruski has a task to put together a website, something simple, and then we're going to run it through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You should see it where it pops up and says sponsored by Raul Reyes, and it's real simple. Do you want him to run again or not? Because if not enough of you are involved, then we are never going to win anything. And by the way, this is not a takeaway from the other candidates. What I'm saying is there has to be a strategy to take out an incumbent, and right now I'm not seeing it. Okay, we've got a guy that's running around as a candidate from Dallas. As soon as you know that, you're not going to vote for that guy. We already got one carpetbagger. There's a few other folks that are good candidates. I hope you will look at them. We will certainly project and promote them as well. I'm all in just to get rid of Tony Gonzalez. But that said, This is not a full commitment. I'm going to ask you what you think. You get to decide. But if there's not enough, we're going to call it like it is. We'll let the other candidates take care of Tony, and then we'll see what happens. But I'm going to tell you right now, based on what I'm seeing right now, we don't have enough candidates in the race to actually take him out. He's probably doing high fives in the back, and that's why he's voting this way. This is why he's doing this. You see, he's voting against Jim Jordan because right now he doesn't feel threatened by anybody. That's not to say that I'm the guy. What I'm telling you is, I've said it before, the way you get rid of incumbents, you've got to have 4 or 5 people that pull 5 or 6,000 votes. You get them under 50%, boom, we're in a runoff again. He cannot win in a runoff. Let me tell you why. Because the same BS they fed you 4 years ago isn't going to fly. He's got too many negatives against him. He's at 33% on a poll. He's nowhere near where he needs to be. You need to be at least 42% plus. And 42% plus is a guy that's hated in his own district. Tony Gonzalez is at 33. So, but you still got to run a strategy in this district. You understand? Now, for the rest of America who's listening, go, man, this guy really hates Tony. No, we don't hate Tony. In fact, we pray for him. We pray that a big thunderbolt of goodness will hit him and he'll start to do the right stuff. But he's not. He's a liar and he's a pretender. And we've had enough. The border is absolutely a mess because we believed him when he said he was going to build a wall, secure the border, and go fight for us. And all he's done is go to Ukraine, allegedly, is what we're hearing, and creating the Biden banking accounts where they all take a kickback after they give, 10% to the big guy, whoever that is. So all that said, and by the way, I'm going to encourage my other friends to jump in because we have got to figure this out. There's got to be more than enough candidates in this. You understand? Because if you really want to do something, it's time to do it. Now, I'm like everybody else. We're running out of time, and I've certainly have spent a lot of my dinero trying to do the right thing for this district. But there's a lot of people out there that are playing politics with our lives. And I'll ask it again. I'm not picking on any, but they're the ones that come to mind. NRA, are you going to endorse this guy? Because if you do, you might as well turn in your NRA status because nobody's going to, you're done with. Probably why the GOA is probably one of the best organizations. Texas Gun Owners is another one too. And a few others, but Texas Right to Life, Texas Alliance for Life, all these, are you still going to endorse this guy? Is money more important than your liberty and your freedom? And I think it was John Adams or one of those founding fathers asked the same question. At what point are you going to give up your dinero and fight for your liberty? Because really, you can't have one without the other. Because a lot of us are becoming slave to taxes, an encroaching federal government that doesn't give a crap about you. Because right now, every time Joe Biden or the federal government flinches, everybody does this. That is not how it's supposed to work. And don't even get me started with Greg Abbott, because right now that is the most failed governor in the entire history of America or Texas. And Don Buckingham, if you're watching, you better start chastising Greg Abbott, because if you're on the, let me just side note with Don Buckingham here. That lady's running around pretending like everything's okay, but she won't chastise the one governor that won't hold to the states' rights part of the Constitution, which is the 10th Amendment. It says we are a sovereign state. The federal government can't tell Texas how to live its life, and it cannot tell Texas how to defend its people. You can send Operation Lone Star billions and billions of dollars, but if the results are still the same, folks, and it puts my kids in danger with these people coming in, you got another thing coming. So now we've got to figure out how to keep these people out. So the answer is we're now considering it. Okay. Somebody call Patrick Vitek because he needs to know. And if he wants to interview me, he can. But there's no hardcore commitment here other than you're going to get to answer it. What do you think? 10 days we'll have a website? She's thinking 2 weeks. My wife's in the back going, what are you doing? She is. Folks, we're not there. We're simply telling you, I'm off my rocking chair now, because after today, if you don't see what I see and you still go vote for some guy from Dallas, Texas, he's one of the candidates. If you're supporting that guy, you got a problem. You don't understand the people of CD23. You understand? By the way, there's other wonderful candidates. You need to look at them. Julie Clark's out there. You got to look at her. You got to look at Brandon Herrera's another one out there. Frank Lopez may be jumping in. I'm not saying he is. What I'm telling you is these are wonderful people. So you got to start looking at those people. I'm thinking about it, but we're not in 100%. And if we're not in, it's because there wasn't enough support. That's all there is to it. Maybe even Frank as well, or some of the other folks. You got to start vetting your candidates, and you better start asking your organization, why are we going to endorse the guy who got censured by the Republican Party? Why? And I'm going to call people out. I no longer care what you think about me. What I'm telling you is America deserves strong, real representation that takes it to DC like Matt Gaetz did and says, we're not going to let you put more money on the backs of the credit card that no longer can afford to handle another $2 trillion a year. We can't do that. Our kids deserve better, and you better start waking up and you better start acting like that. And for all my Christian friends, the devil's at the door. He's already in the government. If you don't start acting or doing something about it, guess what? It doesn't get any better than it just doesn't get any better. It's only going to get worse. It only gets worse. And somebody sent this video to Tony Gonzalez and said, he's done pissed me off enough that we're going to think about it. And if you guys support us, we're going to be in this with the other good candidates, and we're going to get him in the runoff, because that's usually how it happens. And then we're all going to support the one person, and boom, he's out of there. Again, we're not 100% in until you say it, but you get to vote before November the 1st about which way we want to go. And if you say we want Julie, we want Brandon, we want something, good. I'm going to get behind those people, and we're going to get after it. Okay. But Tony Gonzalez has to go. And for everybody in across America, because we sort of went regional on this podcast, you got to go after the Tony Gonzalez's of your district. Why do you want to put up with county judges that are crap? Why do you want to put up with commissioners that are crap? Why do you want to put up with city mayors that are not doing the things in the bidding of you, the constituent? Because you've sat idle too long. Well, we're going to get to a point where you're getting really uncomfortable, and I think we're there. At least I am. So with that said, am I missing anything, trusty technician? She's on. I mean, listen, the whole team over here, I've got 5 people over here ready, itching, and they actually, to be honest with you, they've already started working on stuff. So stand by for a theater near you to see what do you want to do, because this isn't about Raul. It isn't about one name candidate. It's about, what do you want to do? Do you want to save America? I mean, we could use the "Make America" slogan again, but I'm done. I'm done trying to make stuff up. What I'm saying is, what do you want to do to save liberty? What are we going to do to save liberty? Because without it, they're going to close our churches down. See, they already had faked us, and we all closed our churches in the name of this bad virus or whatever this was. Turns out it was a bunch of lies. I did say we're going to get into COVID. We haven't done that, but we will. We have to be very careful with that, because then, they'll completely take us off of all the social media platforms. We really can't afford that, but I'm not going to hold back. The bottom line is, right now, the chess, the moves that we need to make on the chessboard are right now in DC against the rugrats like Tony Gonzalez, who are complete liars. The guy wasn't even from this district. You want to talk about selling snake oil? Boy, I mean, he really poured it on. But now you know. And so we're gonna see what happens here. We're gonna get behind all the candidates that can take this guy down, because he's got to go. So send this to Patrick's VTEG for people who wonder who that is. It's Texas Tribune guy. Okay, send it to him and tell him we're thinking about it. We're seriously off. That's it. We're off the chair. You're done. That's what you wanted, because you're pushing people around. You're not. You're voting against family principles. You're voting against solid border, secure border policies. Hell, you haven't even. The one bill that Tony Gonzalez has put in, it's called the Hires Act, HIRES Act. Look it up. You know what it does, Del Rio? For all my Del Rio peeps who still like Tony Gonzalez and Uvalde and all the way into San Antonio, but you know what it does? It allows to hire illegal aliens. So in places where it's already impoverished, because most of the border district is, the solution for Tony Gonzalez is to hire more illegals. How do you like that? How do you like them apples? I mean, he really thinks you're morons. He thinks you're stupid. Let me say that again. Tony Gonzalez runs around doing what he wants to because he knows one thing. You're going to forget about this tomorrow. You're going to forget about it by March, which is why he's running around pretending like he's a border hog. And yet his bill is right there in front of your face. It's called the Hires Act. Look it up, folks. Google it. All of you have a damn smartphone. Google that crap up and start looking and researching for the things that you need to know about your candidates. You see? All right. Am I out of time? Trusty technician says, pull chocks. We're out of here. By the way, if you don't know what pull chocks is, an Air Force thing where you pull the little things off the tires and boom, the wheels roll. Anyway, okay, we're going to let that go. All that said, stand by for more. And we broke some news today here. Share the news. You want to share that part. And here's the thing. I want you've got to call this guy. Look, here's his number. You got to call Tony Gonzalez. There it is. 210-806-9920. Okay. And if you're in Del Rio, if you know Michelle Fagan, that's she was his representative down in Del Rio. Call him. San Antonio, there's your number. If you're in Uvalde, call this number. You want to just call DC, you've got to blow the phones right off the lids. Patriots, Americans, you all have to start, just dial the phone number, leave a message. They're not going to answer. You know why? Because he doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't want to meet with you, but leave him a message and tell him, get your nalgas on board with Jim Jordan so we can get on with saving America. Because right now we're in trouble. We're in deep poo-poo and we need to start fixing some stuff. Okay. You tell him I've got a haircut and I'm off my chair. Doesn't put me in 100% because I know there's other wonderful candidates. I want them to know I believe that they can do this, but they're going to need some help. And I personally have had enough. And so if I got to get in there and rough it up a little bit, we will. We've just got to pray some more, but I'm going to hear it from you because if you don't chime in, then we're not going to do this. Absolutely not going to do this. All that said, I've had a wonderful time tonight. Are we done? Are we late? We're okay. 9:02. We're like exactly an hour. We started 2 minutes after the fact. If you haven't figured it out, we're passionate about this country, and we're certainly passionate about taking care of our children. You don't come to Texas and you pretend like you're going to be something, and then you let the border wide open. You hang out with NGOs and you pretend, you lie in our faces like things are going to be okay. They're not. Folks, you're responsible for the liberty you get when you wake up in the morning. That's why we pray and we work hard as Texans, and we got to get out and get it done. All that said, stand by for the website and the survey that's going to come out. You get to decide, and you're going to have to share that. Okay. And don't let the minions, they're bots, they're little software mechanisms that a guy like Tony will hire, and they'll go in with 1,000 bots and vote no. Don't run, you know? And so to all my local friends here, you heard it here. We are now thinking about it. We're not in. I'm just telling you, we're now contemplating moving in because, hey, I'm as Tejano as the rest of y'all, and we're not going to sit here back and just take it. That guy is not quaking at his knees, and he should be. He's going to lose in March, one way or the other, but we got to strategize. So with all that said, I want to thank you all for listening. Oh, one last thing here, real quick here. Check this out here. So here's RFK. And we're going to talk about this next week because I really want to know what y'all think here. But RFK is going to run as an independent. And yeah, Democrats are frightened that I'm going to spoil the election for President Biden, and the Republicans are frightened that I'm going to spoil it for President Trump. What do y'all think? A good friend of mine ran as an independent. And I think he's a visionary, to be honest with you, because more and more, we are never going to be Democrats, But the Republican Party is in such shambles. It's not doing what it says it's supposed to do. It keeps sending in people like Tony Gonzalez, Michael McCall, Dan Crenshaw. Pick a Republican, and they're all bought and sold. So we, the people, don't have real representation. You see, and what happens? You have cultural connections. Like Hispanics, more than likely, usually vote Democrat. All the Republican Party is doing is allowing them to go back to the Democrat Party because we have absolutely can't keep our word. You won't bring jobs to the communities we live in. You think we're okay with just a bunch of illegals running around in places like Eagle Pass, Del Rio, Brownsville, Atascosa, all the way into San Antonio. You think we're okay with that, and you pretend like we're Hispanics are so culturally conservative. Well, we've known that, broettes, but you got to do something about it. Enough of the talk. We need more action. That said, I want to thank everybody. Listen, God is good all the time. Don't ever forget that. And he is in control. But he doesn't say the hole's going to get dug if you just pray for it to get dug. You're going to have to pick up a shovel and you're going to have to start digging a hole. You're going to have to start building things so that we can get America back to where it was, and pray the Lord comes soon, because I tell you what, it's just getting just awful. That said, stay positive. We're doing that here. There's no doldrums here, man. Don't put your head down. If you didn't get excited about tonight's podcast, then you're watching the wrong thing. Get excited. We're going to get things done. We're going to make some things happen. We're going to get rid of all these rhinos and alleged Republicans that are really Democrats. They're really just puppet folks. Somebody paid them a lot of money, and that's why we got to get rid of them. Yeah, I can see my wife saying, that's enough. You said goodbye like 5 times. Okay, then we're going to get off right now. God bless all of you. Everybody have a wonderful night. Share this, especially the last 20 minutes. And I got to go explain that to my wife as well. We love you. Everybody stay safe. And